The Sportscast, May 1st, 2023. Happy May Day. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Apple Podcast. You can also listen to us on your smart speaker. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave a rating and a review. It will help us out tremendously. We're also on online radio 24/7. Visit us on thesportscast.net or also follow us on Twitter and Instagram, the Sportscast1. You could also get our app, the Sportscast. Curry scored 50 points to push the Warriors into the next round of the NBA playoffs. Butler gets a sprained ankle, but leads the Heat against the New York Knicks. And join us, Amanda, just coming off the plane from the other side of the world. Hal Phillips, welcome back to the Sportscast.
Thanks, Santi. Happy to be here and fairly well rested too.
So, Hal, what is the key success when you travel? Do you sleep on the plane, or you try to, go half and half, or what is the strategy?
You have to sleep, not just because 16 hours from Chicago to Auckland will drive you crazy if you don't, but because you have to adjust. And if you don't get 8 hours of sleep or 6 to 8 hours of sleep, somehow, if it's on your own, great. But I use drugs, legal drugs. It helps you adjust. And because, when I go to New Zealand or Australia, it's not like I'm sitting around on the beach for 4 days afterwards. I usually am going for business, and you have to be ready to do something. So you gotta roll up ready to produce. So you need to sleep. And I am a 2 Ambien and a glass of wine guy.
There you have it. When I went to London, the people from the airplane, the stewardess advised me, sleep. That's the best solution because you don't want to get to England all tired up. If you get that sleep in the plane, you're all set to go. Anyways, are you ready to recap what happened this weekend in the NBA playoffs?
I am. Fascinating weekend.
Let's go first to the game of the weekend. They say Warriors beating the Kings in Game 7. Steph Curry scored 50 points. How, if you have not noticed, 20 of 38 shooting, the most scored in a Game 7 in NBA history. Curry is the first player in Warriors history with 40-plus points in Game 7. Hey, they beat the Kings. Your thoughts?
Not to discount it, but it was interesting to me that Steph was determined to get 50. That game was in hand with about 7 minutes to go. And he stayed in the game, and he just shot it and shot it and shot it and shot it. I think he was making a point, and he made it very roundly. He was great, and he was great from 2. He was great from 3. I think he was 20 for 38 or something like that. That's a remarkable volume of shooting, and made all sorts of shots. And I think he turned it over once. He was immense. He wasn't the reason they won the game, but he was outstanding.
Yeah, Curry actually had a speech to his teammates the night before after they lost Game 6, which everyone thought they were going to win that game and close it out against the Kings. But he told, look, guys, you got to trust me. We got to win this. This is very, very key to beat the Kings. The Kings had a good first showing up to the playoffs after 16 years. Very young players. We got Fox, Sabonis. But what were your thoughts over this Kings squad?
Well, I thought they were hugely impressive, and they would have won this game too, or been in it at least at the end, but for a couple of things. One, they lost their shooting touch. They could not score in the second half, and I'm not exactly sure why not. Fox missed a bunch of shots. Herter felt like he was getting hot in Game 6, couldn't make anything in this game. And they were exposed, I think, a little bit as too much of a three-point shooting team. It's a miss or make league. We see that even with the best teams, the Celtics, when they miss, they lose. So that was part of it. They went cold. But I think the main reason they lost was they couldn't get a rebound in the second half. Looney was just impossible to deal with. And I think he was impossible to deal with because Wiggins was there occupying Sabonis as well. For, the earlier part of the series when Wiggins was just getting into game shape, he wasn't that much of a factor on the boards, and Sabonis was immense. The Kings got away with playing Harrison Barnes at the 4, but Harrison Barnes can't rebound with Wiggins and can't rebound certainly with Looney. They're a very small team when you think about the fact that Sabonis is your big guy and Barnes is on one side and Keegan Murray is on the other side. That really hurt them in this game. They could not get the freaking rebound all through the second half, and I'd love to see a second chance point stat on the Warriors. That's not really the Warriors game. You saw they tried to play Lyles with Sabonis for a while, but then they were even less potent offensively. So I think they just ran out of options, the Kings did, when they stopped making shots.
Yeah, Sacramento Kings only had 9 rebounds. The Golden State's 23 rebounds, so that definitely was a big factor there.
Oh, was that in the second half?
That was throughout the whole game.
Now, it has to be more than 23 rebounds. It was offensive rebounds. Offensive rebounds.
13 of which were offensive, tied for the most they have had in any quarter in the past 20 campaigns, regular season or playoffs. And as Hal said, Kevin Looney was an inciting force, a big key to this win, grabbing 10 of the Warriors' third quarter rebounds, 8 of them on the offensive glass. The Warriors shot 3 of 8, Hal, from the field and 3 of 5 from the free throw line immediately after Looney's offensive rebounds. How do you see this Warriors team? Do you think they have, I mean, yes, they do have the championship DNA in them, but is this, I mean, going to be a big, deep run this year again?
I think yes is the answer to that. I'm on record with my friend and editor Esteban, who's a massive Warriors fan, that I didn't see anybody all year long in the West that I thought would be able to take the Warriors in a series. Then Wiggins went out and it got a little weird. I think they got complacent this year, the Warriors. They just weren't up to playing road games, and their record on the road showed it. And I don't think they're alone amongst NBA elite teams in that indifference when it comes to playing road games. They sort of mailed those in. But this is not the time for mailing things in. This is a team with massive championship pedigree, and they are the team to beat in the West as of now, especially now that Wiggins is back. They're so much bigger and so much more versatile with him, offensively and defensively. Kuminga never stepped up to take a place in the rotation when I think Wiggins was out for 2 months at the end of the season. And sure, he was a little rusty, but boy, he's fresh. And they're just a completely different team with him on the floor.
Yeah. Looney with 11 points. Klay Thompson, 16 points. Wiggins, 17 points. From the bench, not much going on there. Moody, high points. So
I don't even know who that guy is, honestly. He's he's getting some big minutes at a big time this season. This is a really weird game. The first half was really entertaining. I thought it was a dead heat. In the third quarter and fourth quarter, both teams were terrible. They missed so many shots, and they missed so many free throws. Steph Curry missed 2 free throws. That never happens. It was just a weird moment in the game. And if the Kings had stepped up and started draining some shots and making some rebounds at that time, I think they would have won this game. Steph was determined for that not to happen, obviously, but he wasn't getting any help. But it was an ugly 7 or 8 minute stretch there over the third into the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden it was a 17-point lead and the game was over.
It was over there. Sabonis from the Kings had 22 points. Murray, 10 points. Fox, 16. From the bench, Davis had 14 points. And Monk had 14 points. This Kings team is a very young team, Hal. Do you think they need some tweaking or they need some just more experience?
I think they're a very good team, and they're a very young team. And I think if they get a legitimate 4 to play next to Sabonis, they're going to be very, very tough. And I don't know why a good free agent wouldn't want to go there. Clearly, Sabonis, though, is an odd player. The Warriors made a decision, I think, before Game 6 to just let him shoot the mid-range jumper. They slacked off of him. They spread that defense around. They sagged it back and spread it out wide to cover the wings better. And they said, go ahead, make that shot. And he did in Game 6. He didn't in Game 7. But they did the same thing with Harrison Barnes. They said, look, we're just not going to pay enough attention to you. If you make those threes, God love you. But he did not. And Murray had some moments in this game. He's going to be a good player. But, geez, you can't count on that rookie 6'8" forward to make threes to win you a Game 7 against the defending champions. That's not going to work. They did their best. I think they're a little tapped out. They had a chance to win the series. I think in Game 4 when Harrison Barnes had a pretty open three to win the game. Didn't make it, and from that moment going forward, they were behind the 8 ball.
Team of the future, I do think so. At
Mhm.
the end, Darren Fox was hugging Steph Curry and Green like tight, and it felt like when you're kind of passing the baton for the future kind of thing. I mean, not now, obviously, because they lost, but it's something like like when Michael Jordan hugged Shaq back in like the early back in the day. Hey, your turn is coming, and I think the Sacramento Kings will make it for sure make a splash in the future.
They got a massive upside, and Fox, has been in the league 5 years. He's not a kid, and he just went to another level this year. I follow him pretty closely via fantasy leagues that I'm in, and he's been productive, but not this productive. And to watch him play so much in person, or rather on television during the playoffs, the guy's just got an amazing handle with a broken finger. He was the most impressive guard I've seen in these playoffs. And who else was great? Malik Monk, who was always one of these guys that when he came out of Kentucky, you're like, this guy is really good. He's smooth, he's confident, he's got an amazing stroke, unlimited range. Just never did anything in the league until this year. I'm not sure why, but he's they get anything close to that kind of production from him going forward, they're going to have a great guard rotation too. I just think they're one big guy away. Think about someone like Tobias Harris on this team, or a defensive guy like Jared Vanderbilt, 6'8", 6'9" defender who can rebound it. That's the only piece I think they're missing.
How about Dillon Brooks?
Dillon Brooks. I don't know. I'm not particularly convinced by Dillon Brooks, if only because he just can't make shots. He's only about 6'6". He's a junkyard dog, and you got to like that about him, and he can defend. But he's just not big enough to do what they need. Is he a free agent?
He is a free agent after this season. He could re-sign with the Grizzlies, but he might go elsewhere.
Well, that's a whole nother matter. The Grizzlies have so much depth. Who do they keep? Who do they get rid of? They got some decisions to make.
Yeah, and the question is, if Steven Adams, if he did play, if he was healthy, would it be a different turnaround?
And Brandon Clark. I mean, their entire front court was gutted. They're playing Santi, your namesake, Santi Aldama, and Xavier Tillman. These are good. What they in soccer they call squad players, but you don't want them starting against LeBron. In a must-win playoff game on the road.
Well, there you have it. The Warriors will face LeBron and the Lakers tomorrow night. We'll get into that preview a little bit later in the show, but looking forward to that series. As Steph Curry says, it's going to be a whole different series there compared to the Kings. Let's go to the East Side. The rivalry Heat Knicks. Hal yesterday in South Florida. There's a lot of New Yorkers who live down here. The Knicks fans came out of like the woodshed. They were wearing their Knicks jerseys or Knicks shirts, everything. Well, anyways, the Heat defeated the Knicks 108-101. It wasn't even close. It felt like the Heat were leading like most of the way. Of course, I think in the first half, the Knicks had a small lead. Butler had a sprain injury towards the end of the game, but it was a great game for Butler, who had 25 points. Lowry had 18 points. But the Knicks, I don't know. I guess they were kind of shocked how good this Heat team was.
Well, they can't beat the Heat. They can't even compete with the Heat without Julius Randle. He has hurt his hand. Not sure that he's really even going to play in the second game. The Knicks, I thought, had a tremendous season. It's a typical Thibodeau team, on a defensive front, and they get after it. They're very difficult to play against. They're big. They're bruising. They take care of the ball, but without Randle, they can't score, or they don't have enough scoring options, and that was pretty clear against the Heat, who just aren't very good. I see, Jimmy Butler went down late in that game and rolled his ankle. I think he's going to be okay, but I don't even think they need to win the next game. It wouldn't surprise me if they put him on a plane home and had him ready for Game 3 back in Miami. The Knicks are in big trouble. I feel bad for the Knicks fans on a certain level. They just don't seem to know how to moderate their enthusiasm. This was a fun series to watch if everyone was healthy, but I don't know if you want to break out the Knicks shirts when Julius Randle is sitting on the sideline. He's just too important to this team. They can't compete at this level without him.
RJ Barrett had 26 points. Brunson had 25. And Toppin had 18. Hart had 10. As Hal said, Randall is a key part, and to beat the Heat, they gotta have him. As we mentioned before, Butler had 25. Vincent had 20 points, Hal, and Bam had 16 points. From the bench, Kyle Lowry had 18, as we mentioned before. But I do agree with you, Hal. I think they should rest him for game 2 and get ready for game 3. Those sprained ankles could go up to 2 weeks, maybe longer. For rest, and I hope it's not serious, but we'll have to see what the doctors say today, actually.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch the Heat Gabe Vincent is such a typical Eric Spoelstra roster find. I don't even know who he is. I mean, I do now, but I don't know where he came from. He's been a very solid player for them for 2 or 3 seasons. Spoelstra, he's a Spoelstra creation, and he played very well in this game. He always plays well. I think they're smart. I mean, I think they've seen they're going to get more out of him physically than they'll get out of Kyle Lowry as a starter. So, yeah, they're bringing Lowry off the bench, and he's a pretty great substitute to come in and get after it and run the team and score a few points. And Kevin Love, is another guy that I knew that he would be good for them. I don't know what Cleveland was thinking, getting rid of Kevin Love. I was trading tweets with Peter Vesey, the legendary NBA writer.
I remember him.
Yeah,
great broadcaster.
He's a good follow on Twitter if you guys are interested. I mean, Cleveland, has a really great young front court with Evan Mobley and Jarrett. Not Jarrett Harris. He's the Oscar-winning actor. Thank you. And Jarrett Allen. Jarrett Allen is the other dude. Good front court players. Good young front court players for the Cavaliers, but they can't score. Those guys aren't great passers. And Kevin Love can rebound. He can pass. He knows how to play. He can shoot from the outside and stretch a defense. They let him go basically in February, and he went to a East Conference rival, first of all, and then they were talking about retiring his number at the same time. Really weird that they would do that. Yeah, it's really strange. And now it's it's to the Heat's benefit. He's getting very good minutes. We talked about this. Kevin Love at the bottom of their zone is just way, way, way better option than Duncan Robinson or even Tyler Hero, who's a pretty good rebounding guard. They're just much better in the front court with Love playing 20, 25 minutes a game at the bottom of that zone.
Which Hero could come back by the time if the Heat makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's quite possible we could see him again.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's what they said a couple weeks ago when he injured against the Bucks. So that's a good sign if that's possible. But hopefully that sprained ankle with Butler is not too long. It just really depends how severe it is. But there you have it. Game 2 is on tomorrow, actually. So
hey, one more thing, Santi.
Yeah.
When they were scanning the Madison Square Garden crowd for celebrities, they jumped around to a bunch of them, and then they showed a guy in a knit cap who I would have sworn it was Eminem. But then I was like, wait a minute, he's on the bench. Oh, it's Tyler Hero, and that's the cast on his hand. So separated at birth, Tyler Hero and Eminem.
There you go. And also Aaron Rodgers was at the game as well. So he has some time on his hands while being up there as a New Jet quarterback. Let's go into the predictions tonight. Game 1, Sixers at the Celtics. These two have a long history and rivalry. Hal remembers it. What are your thoughts over this series? Joel Embiid is not, I believe he will not be playing tonight at least, but your thoughts over this series?
It should be an excellent series. I really respect the Sixers. I think, what did they start? Like 1-7? They started terribly, and everyone was calling for Doc Rivers' head. And I'm not the biggest, Doc Rivers fan, but they have a very interesting roster. And if Harden produces for them the way that roster has been designed, they're very, very difficult out. I think the Celtics are better, and I think they should win. But if Embiid doesn't play tonight, And even if he doesn't play tomorrow night and he's ready to go in game 3, I don't know that the Sixers are behind any kind of 8-ball. They're not expected to win on the road. They have to win at least once, but they'll get 2 more chances to do that if the series goes 6 or 7 games. I was watching Denver the other night and destroy the Suns. They play next, and we can talk about them a little bit more. But I was interested to see that they start Aaron Gordon, who was great in that game against the Suns, and they start Contavious Caldwell-Pope, the infamous KCP, and they really play Pope because he's a defender, and there's really the only 2 starting players on the Nuggets lineup who are you'd consider plus defenders. And you look at through the league, and if you're watching the playoffs, count up the real plus defenders that all of these teams have at their disposal. The Heat really only have 3 that they start. The Knicks only have 3. The Lakers have 3. With our friend Andrew Wiggins, now the Warriors have 3. That's the minimum you got to have to compete in this league. I don't think the Suns have 3, but and I think it's charitable to say that the Sixers have 3. But you know who has 4, 5, 6? The Celtics. And that's why I like them. It's not because I'm a Boston homer. They start 4 plus defenders. And then they bring Brogdon or Derek White off the bench. I mean, they are deep and they all get after it. I think that is why they're favored. That's why Vegas favors them, not Hal Phillips.
Exactly. Now, did you see any red flags when they played against the Hawks in that series? Is that something that you thought, well, maybe they could have finished them off earlier? But your thoughts over that series, how it ended?
No, a lot of my Boston friends were like, oh my God, this team hasn't made any progress. They're just completely losing their composure late in the games like they did last year. But look, they won last year and they went as far as they did last year because they smothered teams and they scored enough to beat those teams. And they're going to do the same thing this year if they're successful. They're not going to outscore. If they think they're going to outscore people and win an NBA championship, they're going to lose. They're going to win by being better defensively across the board than their opponent and scoring enough to win. We've seen it all year in Boston. They've lost some terrible, terrible games to bad teams because they're so reliant on the 3-point shot. It's going to happen. They're going to shoot badly and lose. And it's going to happen against the Sixers. It's going to happen against the Heat if they play them in the finals, and it'll happen in the NBA final if they are so lucky as to get there. But they can cover their ass by the fact that they have always on the floor 4 or 5 plus defenders. And that is what makes them an elite team. So I hope they don't forget that, and I hope they keep leveraging it. I just wish they like many NBA teams, when they need a freaking bucket at the end of the game, they just don't give it to Tatum and have him go one-on-one and clear out for him. It never produces a good result for the Celtics. I would argue it very rarely works for any NBA teams except for Steph Curry and the Warriors.
There you have it. Who will take Game 1? I'm guessing Boston.
Who's hosting?
No. Who will take Game 1?
Oh, I think the Celtics will win, especially if Embiid doesn't play. I like the Celtics to win in 6, but it could go 7. They could lose. I think we should. We've talked about this too, Santi. I think that these are the most wide open NBA playoffs we've ever seen. I think it's great. It's very NHL sort of worthy in that way, and I'm really bummed.
Go Panthers out.
I know. I'm just really very, very cross that Boston lost to the Panthers last night. Is very disappointing.
Yeah, and they were telling me how the Panthers did those trades this year, which will help them to become more playoff proof, and it kind of displayed it last night.
This happens every year in the NHL, and it's what makes the Stanley Cup playoffs so very compelling. The Avalanche lost last night to the Kraken in 7 games at home. So it's not Boston alone, but this happens every year. A top seed goes out early, and all of a sudden, all the presumptions and all the information we might have gathered from the regular season is worthless. And
the President's Cup, don't win it.
When they stopped calling it the Art Ross Trophy, I lost all interest in the President's Cup, Santi. Who cares? It doesn't mean anything. It really never did. But that's what makes the NHL playoffs great. A team can get hot and win the whole freaking thing. And I think that
It's wide open.
it's wide open. Look at the Lakers; they're a 7 seed now. They could come in and win it all.
Which, speak of the devil, Lakers and Warriors. How do you see this series? How obviously I think it's going to be a little bit easier than the Kings for the Warriors, but your thoughts?
You think the Warriors have found the Kings? Well, I think that this is going to be just as hard, if not a harder series, because they are playoff tested. That's a veteran team that they're playing in LA, and LA that trade they made changed that team. They are now a pretty complete, deep team with their 2 studs seemingly healthy. AD was incredible in the last 3 or 4 games of the Memphis series. Again, did he score a lot? I don't even know. He was an incredible defensive force against the Grizzlies. Turned that tide. I don't know. I think that Wiggins is going to have a huge game, a huge series against the Lakers because they're big. They rebound it well. And other than Looney, I don't think the Warriors really do. Draymond's a good rebounder. He's 6'6", and if you have him covering somebody on the wing, he's not there to rebound. Wiggins is going to have to man up and really produce on the boards for the Warriors to win that series. But I have no idea what will happen in that series. No idea.
You're saying the Lakers can win this series?
Sure, they could win the series. Why wouldn't they?
I think they could. Yeah, it's a possibility.
I mean, what does Vegas say? I don't even know, but I bet it's very close.
It's probably the Warriors.
I'm like the Warriors, but very. It's not a 50-50 bet. I'm saying it's not pick 'em, but it's not a huge spread there. I'd be shocked.
We'll see what happens.
I'd be shocked if Vegas picked Warriors in an overwhelming fashion.
Yeah, Steph Curry said it's going to be a whole different series. I'm not sure exactly what he meant from that, but I bet it's going to be difficult either way. Suns and Nuggets. Nuggets are up 1-0 in the series. Your thoughts and who's going to take game 2?
No one's talking about the Nuggets, are they? I really like them, and everyone until the Nuggets just destroyed them. What was it, Saturday night? It was Saturday night. So. The Suns had not lost a game when Durant had played, except for the very first one he played. So they lost that game. This was late in the regular season or March, wherever. They won 15 games in a row with him in the lineup, and that was the first game they lost. I think they've run up against a team though that they have a difficult time matching up with. I love watching Ayton play Jokic. Jokic plays, like a point forward. So he's facing the basket a lot. And Ayton is actually very, very good at defending in that way. It looks like a couple of 6'5" guys going at it, in the mid-range. And Ayton has his flaws. He's not a dominant center that a lot of people wanted him to be. But, geez, he plays Jokic real well. But, geez, they have too many weapons. The Nuggets do that. If they're going to get, I think they got 25 points out of Aaron Gordon. If that happens, I don't know that the Suns can win. They're just not deep enough, and they've got to be getting tired. Chris Paul, 37 years old, and we'll see how long he can go. But who knows? I think the Suns may come back and they're going to give them a game. They rolled over on Saturday night. Wouldn't surprise me if the Suns win this game, but I think this one's going to go 7.
Yeah, I think it might go that deep. It's going to be all the series are going to be pretty good. I don't think there's going to be a sweep of any types or any type of sort. There might be, best case scenario, 6-game series, but it might go down to the wire. But there you have it. Semi-final. The NBA playoffs are commencing, of course. And I have to bring this up. Liverpool beating Tottenham 4-3. They were up 3-0, 3-1 for most of the match. And then Liverpool came back. Tottenham came back and tied it, and then Jota scored that winning goal.
Yeah, that was, for Hal, and I know people don't sit around at home worrying about my psyche, but that was a bad day yesterday. I flew home, and I had a really big day Saturday. Got a lot of stuff done around the house that I hadn't been here for 2 weeks, and just sat around yesterday. Got a bunch of work done in the morning, and then watched Spurs lose that game in just horrifying fashion. I almost turned it off at 3-1 because they were just nowhere near being in that game, and stayed with it though. And I was like, oh my God, they tied it back up and then gave up that goal. Terrible. Then the Bruins lost. I really sort of was rooting for the Kings, although my friend Esteban will be very disappointed to hear that. But I wanted them to win. They lost. I was even hoping the Knicks would win because I really don't like the Heat. And all my teams lost yesterday. That's long and short.
And all my teams won yesterday.
So good for you, Santi. It was the Sabbath, and you seem like a God fearing man, so you had it coming.
I had a good day. I can't believe it. I can't believe the Panthers won the Heat. I saw it coming. Liverpool saw it coming. So I cannot say that I did not have a good day. I had a blast. But anyways, how we're out of time. What is the best way to reach you to talk to you about some basketball?
That's right. I'm at Mandarin Hal on Twitter, and my new book, Generation Zero, you can get on Amazon. It's a soccer book. But you can also check out halphillips.net for all my basketball writing.
Absolutely. And US has hired Matt Crocker as their sporting director.
Yeah.
So he comes from Southampton. And I've been hearing, I think Marsh is in the lead for the hiring for the US.
When Marsh got fired from Leeds, which doesn't look like a very good move right now, does it? It was rumored that he would go to Southampton, and it seemed like it was sort of a done deal. And then it fell apart, that deal. So Crocker was the director of football operations, soccer operations at Southampton. He's Welsh, but he has a ton of experience working with the English FA and the English national team. Pretty good hire, I think. If you're looking at the guys that they might have, hired, someone like Oguche Onyewu, I think he is a good candidate, but he runs, I think, a small Belgian club, first division, but a Belgian club, just not the same class. Southampton, don't be fooled by the fact that they might go down this year. They are in transfer market business at a very, very high level because they're in the Premier League. I don't know. I think it's a pretty good hire, and if they get Marsh in the deal, then I think it's a win-win.
I think it's a win-win and a good stand-in, and hopefully have a good presence for the 2026 World Cup hosted here in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. So looking forward to those events. And Matt Crocker starts until August, but I'm sure he's probably doing some things on the side to get things going. You can reach us at thesportscast.net or the Sportscast1 on Twitter and Instagram. And we'll be following along with the NBA playoffs. NHL is getting excited as well. And we'll see if Man City ends up with the Premier League again, probably. Anyways, Hal, thanks for coming on to the Sportscast.
Always my pleasure, Santi. Cheers.